they're building up this Australia trip. We're supposed to be getting excited about it. We've actually got, I think, the date of Harry's speaking engagement as well, which I think is the 17th of April. And they are hoping that this will be the reset, but it's not the reset. It's the beginning of the end.
Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. This is where tradition meets truth and nothing is off limits. Helping me tackle the headlines this week is host of the Mark Dolan Show. You'll never guess. It's Mark Dolan. And journalist and former Sun royal correspondent Charles Rae. The vibes are right, gentlemen. I can already tell that this is the best episode of Royally Unfiltered that ever has happened ever. Look at that smile.
We'll see. We're going to do our best. You've rendered us speechless.
That's, I do have that skill. All right. It has been reported that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are attempting a rebranding, like the 400th rebranding since we've all known each other. They are heading to Australia, and this is going to be another one of those quasi-royal tours that we call it. Mark, I know you'll remember 2018, where they were rock stars. They were so celebrated on the Australia tour. And Meghan announced her pregnancy. We found out later through Valentine Lowe's courtiers that while she was working, she said, "I can't believe I'm getting paid for this." But we didn't know about some of the chaos going on behind the scenes. But they were so well received. And they're heading back there in April. What is your reaction to another half in, half out royal tour from Harry and Meghan?
Well, it's a mark of desperation. I mean, let's be clear that they've got financial problems because they've got massive outgoings, big mortgage on that Montecito mansion, security costs, people to clean the pool, you name it, air travel. And the money is just like drying up. When was the last time Harry was involved with a commercial endeavor? The media career is completely over. Meghan hanging on to the last remnants of that Netflix deal with her fingertips. So they need cash. So I think a big aspect of this trip to Australia is for that visibility, to make headlines. Like you mentioned, it's a kind of quasi-royal tour. They are counterfeit royals now, but they know that that's where the money is. It's the royal lineage, it's the pedigree that's the only thing that they have of value. And they're going to Australia. They're going to go and do a couple of gigs. Well, we're going to come to that, aren't we, in a minute? Harry's got a speaking engagement and Meghan is selling tickets for the great privilege of having dinner near her and being photographed near the great Duchess. But yeah, it's going to be a horrible tour. There'll be bad headlines because the two of them are so tone deaf. Meghan is a public relations dumpster fire. Everything she touches turns to mud, not just with her businesses, but with her public image as well. It's always a hot mess. Do you remember the Kris Kardashian party? It was a complete disaster.
Yes.
With you can use our photos, you can't, all that stuff. So yeah, we're going to get lots of material out of it, but I guarantee it's going to be ugly.
So funny. Charles, what would Queen Elizabeth think? She specifically told Harry during the Sandringham summit, no half in, no half out, no part-time. And it wasn't because she had a chip on her shoulder or she had anything against these two. We saw it fumble through Edward and Sophie. We've seen it fumble through past royals. The Queen had learned her lesson, and she's simply saying, you can't endorse all of these random things under our name, under our prestige. And I think the reason we're seeing Harry and Meghan plow full steam ahead is because they have absolutely no respect for King Charles.
No, I mean, I have to say that what is Australia's loss is our gain, to be perfectly honest. If they're over there, then they're not interfering over here. And yet again, they've broken or about to break a protocol rule. They've organized this tour, this so-called royal tour, which may be happening at the same time as when the king is supposed to be in America. That's in the balance at the moment because of Iran and everything else. But I mean, he's due to be in America to celebrate the 250 years celebration of America. And that is by far the much more important tour. And I think that Harry and Meghan will get a big shock and a surprise by the reception that they get, not from the sort of hangers-on there, but from the general public, who I don't think they're as popular there as they were in 2018. We have to remember that in 2018, they were both working members of the royal family, very good working members of the royal family, very popular working members of the royal family. But all that's gone away now. That's way in the past. And you know, as Mark has just said, you know, their engagements are they're not the traditional, and nor should they be, the traditional royal tours. They are money-making tours. It's all about, you know, grab as much as you can, and then
Yeah.
run back to Montecito and fix the plumbing. It's that simple.
Mark,
Yeah,
tell me
essentially.
Meghan Markle doesn't reek of Fergie right now.
Well, she's turning into Fergie because she's a grifter. And the difference between Fergie and Meghan is that Fergie's heart is in the right place. She's a very, very greedy and indulgent woman, Sarah Ferguson. She's a woman of catastrophically poor judgment. She's quite a damaged human being. She had a crazy childhood, an adulterous father. It was very unstable, the whole thing. Not to excuse her great crimes, but Meghan's different. Meghan's malevolent. You know, Meghan is destructive. Meghan likes to wreak havoc and cause trouble. She's done it in her own family. I mean, if she can't show empathy for her father fighting for his life in a Philippines intensive care unit down to his last leg, then you're dealing with, you know, quite a an opponent, quite a nemesis, really. And Meghan won't let anything get in her way. And this trip to Australia, all of it comes from Meghan now, I think, Charlie and Kinsey. I think that she's in the driving seat. I think Harry is a passenger in that relationship, a passenger in that marriage. He's been completely appropriated by her. And I've got to say, it really sticks in the craw as a proud Brit and as a proud monarchist to see the invitation to dinner with Meghan, which will set you back a cool $2,000. Then, I mean, I'd pay $2,000 not to have dinner with Meghan. That's another story. But to see her using that title, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, it is sickening. Because if you were to believe Meghan, she was very unhappy as a frontline serving royal. She didn't like the institution. She didn't like the formality. Her mental health was neglected. Fine. But let's imagine you're in a marriage with someone called John Smith and you hated him. You wouldn't keep his surname when you divorce, would you?
No, absolutely not. That's such a good point. Charles, when you think about the fact that Harry and Meghan left Jordan 2 days before war breaks out, doesn't it give you the sense that these two idiots have no idea what they're doing and they're just going wherever they can get cameras to follow them around?
Well, yeah, you're right, and I'm surprised, you know, given that they have got, you know, a number of staff, and I'm sure that between the members of the staff, there must be at least one of them that's got an O level. I mean, they must have been able to sort of that's a British system of, you know, telling how brainy you are. They must have worked out that there was going to be trouble in the Middle East. I mean, we've all known about it for weeks. Well, we've all known about it. Our Prime Minister seems to not have known about it, but that's another matter. Um, so you would think that they would have said, someone would have said to them, "This is not a great idea to head off to the Middle East just yet," because the royal family, members of the royal family, would never have been allowed to go there, you know, for obvious reasons. But they don't seem to care all that much. I mean,
No.
Mark just touched on you know, I know we're going to be discussing it mainly, but the money side of it. I mean, she's charging something like between £1,400 to £1,700 for this 3-night girly event, you know. And I've looked at the menu of it, and I'm like Mark. I'd pay £2,000 just not to be there. But that she's going to rake in something like £600,000.
Do
That's
you really
all.
think so? Because Meghan called and asked to be included in this. Her
Yeah.
friend
Sure.
Marcus Anderson from Soho. I can understand getting that type of money if you are the prize if somebody's pursuing you. But if you're calling and asking for favors, because we think here in the States, Harry's getting between $30,000 and $50,000 per speaking engagement. And Harry truly is the attraction, not Meghan Pretzelbag Markle.
Oh,
And so I don't know if, unless she's getting a percentage of sales, which might be the contractual agreement, I don't know if she could get that type of money for an appearance.
but this is being labeled as a fireside chat. There's 300 people going to be there. That's going to be one hell of a fireside, for people to sort of sit around with Meghan. And what you're going to get, Meghan, talking about her life and everything else.
She's anchoring herself.
Absolutely. And plus, you're going to be allowed to have a picture, not a picture of just the two of you together, but in a group of 300 people. That's going to look well on the wall at some stage. I just, it's really tacky. I mean, Mark touched
Yeah.
on a little while ago. I mean, I've known her for donkey's years. I mean, she's always been as mad as a box of frogs. And the things that she used to do for money were quite incredible. I mean, at the moment, Meghan pales into insignificance the way compared to what Fergie used to do. But believe me, she's catching up. I mean, there's no doubt about that. She is catching up with her tawdry little ways of making money. But
Yeah.
as I say to you, Kinsey and Mark, $600,000, £600,000 for a 3-day lock-in with Meghan Markle. God almighty, I'd rather go to prison.
Yeah, there's no escape, is there? And you used exactly the right word, Charlie, which is tacky. And, Meghan is tacky. She's cheap. I hate to tell
Yeah.
you, Kinsey, the woman's got no class, which is why it was so inappropriate for her to become a so-called princess. And let's not forget, this is the woman that put her husband, Prince Harry, up to speak to the head of Disney, saying, you should really get my wife to do voiceovers. Now, that was when they were in their pomp, when they were quite respected figures and they were quite high profile. We know how desperate they are now. Their stock value in the United States is below zero. It's a shocker. But even then, when they didn't need the money and Meghan didn't need the clicks or the gigs or the attention, there she was getting her husband to embarrass himself, hustling for the missus to get her a voiceover gig. I mean, it's truly shocking. And now, like you said, she'll go to Australia and it's tickets to hang out with Meghan. I mean, this is like a meet and greet. This is what a kind of struggling stand-up comedian would be doing, or somebody that was maybe in an 80s TV franchise that everyone's forgotten about. This is not what is becoming of the wife of the son of the King of the United Kingdom. It's unedifying, but that's Meghan.
It's interesting how much attention we pay to what we eat, but not always what we put on our skin. Your skin absorbs what you apply to it every single day. And many popular lotions, even the ones labeled natural, contain long ingredient lists filled with additives and synthetic components. That's why more people are looking for simpler alternatives with recognizable ingredients. Cow's own Tallow Balm is made from grass-fed beef tallow and a short, straightforward list of ingredients, no fillers, no seed oils, no unnecessary additives, just traditional components that have been used for generations. Before modern skincare became oh so complicated, tallow was commonly used because of how well it works with the skin. Its composition is similar to the skin's natural oils, allowing it to absorb easily while providing deep moisture without feeling overly greasy. Cow's own is artisan made and rancher owned in Texas. I'm a Texan. Return to simple, time-tested skincare. So go to cowguys.com to get your bottle and receive a second one for free. No special code needed. That's up to 6 to 8 months of moisturizer for $34. Again, that's cowguys.com. You'll thank me later. I want to ask you something else, Mark, because you and I are in the media business. You noticed, I'm sure, that we got about 24 hours notice that Harry and Meghan were going to go to Jordan.
Yeah.
We're getting weeks of notice that they're going to Australia. Now, to be fair, they have to sell tickets to this event. But How much of this do you think the preparation we're getting, because they love to keep a secret until the last minute, is them trying to change the conversation from the loss of Netflix? Because this loss of Netflix and towards the As Ever brand is very detrimental, could be the last nail in the coffin. And look, we've already moved on. We're not really dwelling on it.
Definitely, all she's got at the moment is the goodwill of a man called Ted Sarandos, who is the head of Netflix. And for some strange reason, he's fond of her. And maybe he feels that he doesn't want to completely throw her under the bus. But it's my understanding, having spoken to leading figures in the US media scene, that all of the Netflix projects are done. You might get a conciliatory one off here and a one off there, but that's being wound down big time. We know the two movie projects have been completely spiked. You don't option a book at the cost of $3 million, and 3 years later there's no director and no cast. So Netflix have given up on Meghan on that side of it, and we know, of course, they've fired her as a business partner for As Ever. So that's one big headache that she's got. And she'll be going to Australia and just thinking, my gosh, I have to reinvent again. And as you said, she's always reinventing and she's always starting new things. And that's because she's not any good at anything. And Meghan's just got one talent, and that's getting what she wants, her will. But she's not a particularly bright person. She's not strategic. She's not organized. So, for example, they're building up this Australia trip. We're supposed to be getting excited about it. We've actually got, I think, the date of Harry's speaking engagement as well, which I think is the 17th of April. And they are hoping that this will be the reset, but it's not the reset. It's the beginning of the end.
Mm. Oh, I got goosebumps there, Mark Dolan. Charles, Mark mentions Prince Harry's speaking engagement. He's a keynote speaker at the Inner Edge Psychosocial Safety Summit. This is a conference supporting leaders to address Australia's escalating mental health crisis in the workplace. How is Prince Harry an authority on mental health in the workplace when he's lost between 25 and 50 employees in the last 6 years since he stepped down as a working member of the British royal family?
Well, he's always been chuntering on about how he's had mental health problems, and he's seen various people, and I'm not knocking him for that. I mean, if that floats your boat and that helps you, to get through another day, then fair enough. I'm all for it. It's not something that I would look to. Is that what you need to be able to speak to this sort of conference? The fact that you've sat on a couch talking to a psychiatrist or a mental health specialist? If that's the case, then yeah, he's fine doing it. But it's not going to cause any problem. This is never going to make the papers unless there's a big cock up somewhere
Well, that's
along
why
the
he
way.
mentions
Yeah,
his mother when it's
yeah,
totally unrelated to the circumstances.
sure.
He's sitting in a Toronto Hilton, supposed to be, supposed to be inspiring real estate agents, and he mentions the death of his mom. And
Yeah.
yeah, then it ends up in the papers, but it's totally unrelated to the circumstances, and it brings the vibe down,
But
Charles.
how many more times is he going to have to play the Diana card? That
Mm.
I lost my mother. Yes, lots of people have lost their mothers in tragic circumstances. And I'm not trying to belittle the guy at all. I mean, I had a great deal of time for him when he was a proper working royal, when he was a soldier. He was probably at that time the most popular member of the royal family. And look at him now. He's gone from hero to zero,
Mm.
without too much trouble, because he married Meghan. And the one thing I do disagree with Mark is I think that she is very bright. I think she knows exactly what she's doing. I don't think she's a dummy. I think she's got Harry. He is a passenger. What is it they call it? Harry's a victim of a Stockholm syndrome. The
Oh, yeah.
kidnappee who's forced into doing all sorts of things because she says he's got to do this. From that point of view, I don't think she's stupid. I think she knows exactly what she's doing and why she's doing it. And I think as well that Harry Harry's problems with the newspapers over here and the court cases that are going on, and the fact he's been suing or trying to sue the Home Office over the protection and everything else. That's not Harry. That's her. She's the one. She's behind it all. She's doing everything like that.
Mark, if we go with Charles's theory that Meghan is smart, then what is the issue? Why does she keep losing opportunities like Spotify and Netflix? Is it an inability to collaborate?
Well, I hear
Because
I hear what Charlie's saying, and I totally take Charlie's point. I think what you've got is a woman of such ambition and drive that it sort of manifests as strategic intelligence. But I think she's a very ordinary person with no discernible talent that, for some reason, from an early age, was just hell bent on fame. And I don't think she cared how she got it. You know, it could have been as an actress, it could have been as a TV host. It didn't matter any which way. You know, don't give me that guff about the acting. She's no Meryl Streep, for God's sakes. You know, that was just another gig on her path to fame. No one that was a serious performing artist would divert their career in the direction of becoming a member of the royal family and marrying a prince, right? That is not the normal trajectory of someone that's about to win an Oscar. So it's just an obsession with attention, with the spotlight, a hunger for that. And such is her desire for it that she'll move hell and high water. And I think that sort of may look like she's a strategic genius, but actually, when you kind of drill into the detail of it, like you've said, she can't pull it off. She can't sustain it. So she thought she was going to be like Gwyneth Paltrow and have the equivalent of Goop when she started as ever. Well, Goop is a multi-million-dollar success story. Gwyneth Paltrow's website. Meghan's is a hot mess. It's my understanding that there are thousands of jars of honey, jam, and flour sprinkles gathering dust in an American warehouse in the middle of the country. The acting career fizzled out. I think that's why she jumped in with Harry at that point. She could see the direction of travel. Suits was going away. Then she tried being a princess. That didn't work out. Then she's a humanitarian. Well, that's not going to work because she doesn't care about people. So, you know, it's really hard to see how Meghan is going to manifest whatever the dream is. I just don't see how she's going to realize that dream. I think they're in quicksand, guys. I really do. And I think the money is a real problem, Charlie and Kinsey, because it was Hong Tzu, you know, the art of war, Hong Tzu, who said that the worst enemy is someone with nothing to lose. And I'm worried, guys, that as Harry and Meghan get more desperate for cash, they'll do even more damage to the royal family.
Charles, that's a really great point, and I am concerned about that deep in my heart too. However, don't you believe that the King and Prince William have been so intelligent in the way that they've navigated Harry and Meghan since the release of Netflix, since the release of Spare? And quite simply, it's not engaging with them, not giving them new fuel, not giving them new whispers or content or things to talk about. I mean, Harry is finding out about his father's cancer 3 seconds before the world. They found out about Catherine's cancer with the world, over a push alert on their cell phones. They weren't personally told. The royal family has been so incredibly strategic and careful in engaging with them in the last few years to not give them further details about their life that they could sell.
You're right, Kinsey, and it's going to take a lot more than one semi Z-list actress to bring down the monarchy. I mean, we survived, or the monarchy, not me, but the monarchy has survived over 1,000 years, even including when you guys kicked us out of the States. The monarchy survives that. And the monarchy is going through a tumultuous problems at the moment, what with, Andrew passing Windsor and everything else, which is much more important. I mean, Meghan's a sideshow compared to what's going on elsewhere. And that is going to carry on being a major problem. But even that will not bring down the monarchy. The monarchy will survive. And as you're absolutely right, that the King and Prince William are doing as much as they possibly can, to try to stop, the criticism and everything else. They can't do anything else with Andrew Mountbatten with them. They've gone as far as they can. They cannot prosecute him. They don't have the power to do that. They've stripped him of everything. So what I'm saying to you is that, Meghan's little sideshow is not going to cause the monarchy any great shakes of a problem. They've got bigger fish to fry.
Well, I agree. I think I totally agree with that, Charlie and Kinsey. I think these trips are definitely going to just be more or less backfire on the couple, because as they try to be fake royals, it just it's so obvious. Really, they actually they've got enough rope to hang themselves with. I think those trips are always embarrassing. But what I'm worried about is as the cash pile begins to dwindle, is Meghan thinking it's time for a book?
Yeah.
Meghan, my story. Now, it's always been my assumption, Charlie and Kinsey, that would come after the divorce of the couple, because I think she'd make an absolute fortune
And don't
spilling the
forget,
beans
Mark,
on
don't
Harry.
forget, Vanity Fair reported that Meghan was shopping a post-divorce book. And
Yeah.
you know how strenuous those attorneys are. The fact that made the pages in print, it tells us everything we need to know about how important and how legitimate those sources were.
Unless, and perhaps Charlie is right, that she is a strategic genius and takes the view that actually Harry is of use for the next few years, maybe until the kids go off to college, and that actually she can cash in early and sell that book now. If they're desperate for money, they'll do anything, because it's too embarrassing if they actually do wind up running out of money. And what about Harry? I mean, is he going to? Because there is one option for him to make some money in the world of the media, and that would be a Diana documentary. And that
Hmm.
can't be ruled out. It was almost 30 years ago. Next year, isn't it, Charlie? It's 30
Yep.
years since we
Yep.
lost Diana. And we know that it would be a disaster for his relationship with his brother if he goes ahead and does Diana, a son's story. But again, he'd make a fortune for that. And certainly Netflix would look at a project like that. If he needs
Yeah.
the money, it could happen.
Yeah, he would, but he's never going to be able to make a proper tribute to his mother, not with especially with the fact that his brother isn't speaking to him. And I would have thought any proper documentary, and I'm sure there's
Yeah.
a couple of companies in the pipeline already thinking about what to do and everything else. But any proper documentary is going to have the cooperation of both boys in some form or another. I didn't label Meghan a genius. I think she's bright, but I don't think she's a
Right.
genius.
Yeah.
Um, and just go back to the money for a second. I think you are right. She's not a hardened, bright businesswoman. She sees opportunities to make a pile of cash like Australia there and then, and that's it. Take the money and run and wait for
Right.
something else to come along. So she's not got a big plan. It's not like a big company plan, to manufacture or
She doesn't
make
consider the
something bigger.
consequences, is what you're saying. She doesn't
Yeah,
they see
no,
a money grab, they take
yeah,
it without
yeah,
considering the consequences. And we have so many examples of that between the original Netflix series, the Oprah Winfrey interview, and Spare. Those are the perfect examples of them going, well, we'll make X amount of dollars and we'll worry about the consequences later.
but they were a sellable commodity right at the start because what all they were doing at that point with the Oprah Winfrey, with Spare, and the series on Netflix, the six-part series on Netflix, which was an attack and a criticism of the royal family. Now, once you've done all that, that's fine. They've done all that. They cannot carry on doing that. There isn't anything that they can now say or any more about the royal family because they've accused them of being racist. They've accused them of not helping her. They've accused her of all sorts of things. The Oprah Winfrey show was a farce. They got a lot of money for that, but that commodity's gone now. They can't keep relying on that again.
Mark, I mean, to your point, do you remember in the Cut interview when she talks about how she stumbled upon a journal at Frogmore Cottage and she mentions that she didn't sign an NDA? So we know that there's material there that could potentially become a book, which is kind of concerning. On the topic of desperation and money troubles, does it strike you as odd that Marcus Anderson, Meghan Markle's BFF from Soho House, made
Second
a
husband.
call to secure this this retreat, and she's not working with big publicists. She's not working with, what the hell happened to William Morris Endeavor, Mark? Like, where are these people that we've been told are representing her because she is the next big thing?
Well, the issue that she's got is that she can't see projects through successfully, and she blames everyone except herself. I believe because she has a narcissistic personality type, and narcissists are never wrong, it's never their fault. So I believe that she just struggles to work with people, maybe like a sort of despotic president where you don't get the result you want, so you fire your number two. And I think that Meghan is like that. She doesn't take responsibility. God knows what hell Harry goes through privately behind closed doors. I shudder to think he doesn't look happy, but that's a conversation for another time. She's not great around professionals who know what they're doing because she doesn't. And she's out of her depth. And she's going to keep struggling. That's why I don't see where this happy ending is. I don't see where the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is for Meghan. You know, I suspect that she's just going to sort of limp on with, you know, one doomed business project to the next. She's going to limp on with, you know, one humanitarian cause to the next. The marriage, for what it is going to limp on as well, because in a perverse way, they need each other. And, you know, he's at the roulette wheel, the roulette table in the casino. He's put it all on Meghan, so he's all in. So, you know, it's a very, very bleak outlook. And I think it's going to be such a struggle. And it will always come back to the fact that their value is their relationship to the royal family. And I think that, by the way, a lot of the motivation for these international trips is simply to look royal again. I think that's a big thing. I mean, yeah, they're going to collect some money, some bags of cash from the Australians. But again, they just want to look like prince and princess. And Meghan has identified that's going to be important to her brand. But yeah, she's given up using professionals, people who know what they're doing. They're out of there. You know, she's making it up as she goes along now.
Yes, so true. It is just that fake it till you make it in her life. That's her motto. That's been her motto since she was auditioning for Shakira music videos. Now, Charles Rae, I love Richard Kay, but we have got to talk about his revelations on Palace Confidential this week, where he claimed Princess Diana was preparing Prince Harry to be king, saying that Prince William was shy and reluctant. So she wanted to prepare Prince Harry just in case William wasn't interested in the top job. I need some smelling salt after reading this.
I've known Richard all my life, in effect. So we're very, very good friends and everything else. And Diana has said something similar to me occasionally. Well, but you've got to have it in context. The actual saying she was preparing Harry for being king is not exactly correct. What she was concerned about is that at that time William was a very, very shy lad, and he was very introverted, not completely different to the man he is today.
Stud muffin today.
Well, I'll take your word for it. And she was concerned whether William, as he was then, could handle being king. It was a concern for her. And so the possibility of Harry taking over was in her own mind, but not really workable, because there was never any way that Harry could ever have leapfrogged over William to become king eventually. So yeah, it was a nice story, nice chat and everything else, but I think we have to take it with a pinch of salt. There is no doubt that Diana was concerned about William at that time, but it's a different, as I say to you, it's a much, much more different William today than he was when he was a young lad.
Mark, you know I love Diana, but I went ballistic when I heard this story. And I was like, well, it's not like she's the best judge in men. You know, she dies in the back seat of a car with somebody that's literally engaged to another woman. She had an affair with a man that wrote Princess in Love, who was airing her dirty laundry. You know, maybe she's just not the best judge of character, which was harsh. And I take it back and I apologize for being so hostile. But Prince Harry's exactly where he needs to be right now, taking pictures with paying customers like Mickey Mouse. Am I wrong?
Yeah, most definitely. And it's a shame, because Harry's a decent lad. He also, his heart's in the right place. He's not a malevolent personality. He's a bit damaged. Can you imagine, losing your mother at a young age? We know about the unedifying scene of him following his mother's hearse down the Mall. All really, really painful stuff. So, I try sometimes, occasionally, to show Harry a bit of empathy. What's happened to him is that somebody has got into his head, and that somebody is Meghan Markle. She's changed him. And I think she's done that by essentially manipulating him, gaslighting him, love bombing him, all of those techniques when somebody wants to control somebody else. And a personality like Harry is very easy to control. It's interesting looking at the Diana Richard Kay theory. And I'm sure that Diana will have wanted contingencies. Charlie, perhaps Diana just thought that, and it's kind of along the lines of what you were saying, that what if William decides it's not for him? Because obviously Diana was, completely understood how the monarchy works, and you can't just, you can't really skip the line of succession. But perhaps it was just a contingency. She's like, I want both my boys to be prepared for whatever life throws at them. And if William decides, because he's quite a forthright and rebellious character, that he wasn't going to be king, that Charles will be prepared. Is that possible? That Harry would be prepared.
Of course, it's possible. There is no doubt that at that time Diana was a bit concerned about William and the fact he was quite introverted and was always shy and was in effect hiding away. He didn't like all sorts of things. And I think at that time, if you're about 6 or 7, the prospect of being king, it's a mega job. And am I ever going to be able to do it? So I don't blame Diana for thinking, well, maybe Harry could just step in and do the job. But it's impractical. It could not have happened. And as we've seen now, I mean, William is very much his own man. Without a shadow of a doubt, he knows exactly what he wants and why he wants. And we see him, with members of the public. I mean, today he was in London at a big market preparing coffees with Catherine.
That's where Mark and I went to lunch there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Everybody has to go to lunch there at some stage.
Borough Market. That's where you took me to lunch, Mark.
It's Borough Market. Yeah, Borough Market. It's a tourist trap. And if it's for you,
we're trendsetters.
It's a very expensive lunch.
It's for you rich Americans, so we can take all your money. That's
It's basically the main part of the British economy now is Borough Market.
Exactly. Borough Market is a big. Now that's what Meghan needs to do. She needs to get a stall there and try and sell whatever it is she wants to peddle next.
Well, she's got a few jars of flour sprinkles still waiting to be delivered somewhere.
Too expensive, Mark. Far too expensive.
By the way, I mean, we've got a mutual friend collectively in Angela Levin, who, like you, Charles, is another titan of royal journalism. And she actually has developed this theory about Harry being king. And she thinks that Meghan still has a mad dream that she'll be queen one day.
I think that they think that they're the king and queen of the United States. And I think that the last election probably crumbled their spirits a little bit, because they did have a little sway under the Biden administration, but they have a lot of friction with President Trump. Let us never forget when they asked Jill and Joe Biden if they could come home on Air Force One after the Queen's funeral. The audacity. But Meghan was, before she went fully commercial, calling up senators, trying to influence votes in certain, sitting on ABC, encouraging people to go vote for the other guy, So,
and that is to fair play to Charlie, what you were saying earlier, Charlie, because that is a credit to Meghan, that she knows no shame. And actually, that is how you get ahead in life. And let's not forget that this is a woman of mediocre acting talent that's become one of the most famous human beings on the planet. So, we talk about their challenges. I don't think the marriage is in great shape. Their finances are very wobbly. But guys, I mean, you could argue she's winning.
And everybody's talking about her. Everybody talks about her practically on a daily on a daily basis.
It's an industry. It's an
It
industry.
is an
Meghan is an
industry.
industry.
She's never out of the papers here. So with whatever she's doing, whether it's a diary piece or whether it's an actual, full story, and it'll be. And I go back again to the start of our conversation. How will Australia take to them now? Almost 8 years later, when they were in effect de facto king and queen of that trip. Everybody was pulling for them. Different times though, they were members of the royal family. Nobody cares anymore. They're not members of the royal family, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't ever want them to be back in the royal family ever again.
They've done a lot of damage in
Yeah.
since they've left, and been kind of cruel. I mean, especially to Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip as they were on their way out of this world and on their way to heaven. All right, well, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Charles Rae, Mark Dolan, thank you so much for your time today. What a
Thank you, guys.
pleasure. And I was not wrong. This was an excellent episode. So, applause to us. We'll see you guys again next time.